It's always smart to make wise, informed decisions, especially when it comes to a hobby like this, where you're really getting into something that it relies heavily on personal preference over facts and that sort of thing. I mean, the fragrance hobby is very subjective, so it does pay off to do your research and watch reviews and see what people are saying about scents that you may be interested in. That way you can get both sides of the story, because there's always going to be multiple sides, and you could see kind of where you think you may land. But sometimes it's fun to just splurge a little bit, right? And in a lot of instances, when it comes to fragrances that may be more divisive and they may be harder to get your nose on first, you kind of just have to make the decision for yourself and either jump in or just avoid it. But today I wanted to focus on 10 designer fragrances that are definitely worth splurging on, at least to me. Now, I'm keeping it designer here to try to keep it a little bit more affordable. When it comes to niche splurging, you can really start to get out of hand. And that's where you want to be a bit more informed on your decision and really focus on sampling first. But when you're talking about designers and you're trying to keep it relatively affordable, you can kind of be a little bit more frivolous here and have some more fun. Now, these are all fragrances that at one point I was kind of on the fence of, and then I just decided to jump in, and I didn't regret a single one of these. In fact, a lot of these here are some of my favorites. I tried to gear this list more towards the cooler season, as we are starting to move into that time of year, so we're looking for warmer, sweeter fragrances, but I do have a couple fresher ones in here to finish out summer. So if you've been wanting to spend some money, you got a little bit laying around, and you just want to jump in head first on a new fragrance for yourself, check these out. I will link them down below. And also, hey, make sure you get subscribed to the channel and check my community tab. I'm posting over there several times a day, some of the best deals on fragrances that you can find. Get subscribed, bookmark that page, check it often, save yourself a lot of money. Now, finally, let's get into it. We're going to start off with FERRAGAMO UOMO Signature. Now, this one here and the original are both really, really good. And at one point, we're typically going around $35. They're a little bit higher in price now across all the discount websites. Not really sure why that is. But even at the price point that this one falls at, I still do think it is worth it. Now, it does have sweet notes, tonka bean, coffee, and leather. It's important to note that it is a sweet fragrance, so do make sure that we're on the same page there going into this one. Same with the original. But if you're into fragrances like this and you can deal with that sweetness, then you're already going to be set up for success, because that's what this one is. It is worth the money because compared to the original, this one is adding in some leather and some coffee to make it a bit more refined and a bit more masculine. Nice little piece to splurge on for the cooler months, fall and winter. Next up, we have an exclusive edition, which in some cases here has been close to the same price as a lot of the other normal in production fragrances from the line. This is Dolce & Gabbana, the one Luminous Night. At the time of this video, if you're watching right now, you hit the link down below, you can get this one for $74.99. And that may not sound like a super good deal, you know, it's not cheap, but when you take a look at what Dolce & Gabbana, the one Eau de Parfum, is going for, $60, 100 mil, sometimes $65. You're paying maybe an extra $15 or a bit less for this exclusive edition that does perform better and that all around is a bit more unique. It really is a great deal. This one here, Royal Night, and the one Eau de Parfum are my three favorites out of the entire line, and Luminous Night is going right head to head with Royal Night for me. I love this stuff. Black pepper, amber, incense, sandalwood, and dates are some of the main notes, along with a little bit of an aromatic, slightly fresh sage note here in the mid. It smells incredible. If you want something kind of smoky and mysterious and sweet, but still has a little bit of a masculine touch to it, check this one out for real. It's going to be great moving into fall and winter here. It's impressive stuff. They definitely really blew my expectations away with this one. I figured it would be good, but this is way more than good. Like, this is exceptional. Kind of like this one here, Moustache Eau de Parfum by ROCHAS. Okay, now this one has vanilla, benzoin, it's got pink pepper, hints of ambroxan. And if you've smelled Yves Saint Laurent Tuxedo before, well, this will smell very familiar to you. The only difference is you can get this one a lot of times for about $50, $55 for a 125 ml bottle. Tuxedo, $250 plus, you know, retail price and tax and shipping and all that. Closer to $300 out the door. You're talking huge savings. And it's one of those instances where I like Moustache Eau de Parfum because it's even more mass-pleasing and even more wearable. Tuxedo to some people could be a little bit on the the different side of things, right? It may be a little bit too much for you, but this one's focusing heavily on the nice creamy vanilla benzoin mixture with a little bit of a spicy kick. It smells like the season of fall to me, and for the price point, it is so hard not to recommend. Definitely drop some money down on this if you want a super unique vanilla scent for the fall and winter. Alrighty, next up we have Valentino UOMO Intense. So you guys know this one, it kind of had its fair share of hype there for a little while. You know, it fits into the Dior Homme Intense and the Gentleman Eau de Parfum, that crowd right there. It's super mass pleasing though. Even more so than the Dior, which I think is really valuable. If you don't want to go as stripped back and dumbed down as Gentleman Eau de Parfum, but you don't want to go quite as heavy as Dior Homme Intense or even more so Dior Homme Parfum, then check out this Valentino here. It mixes in that iris note with some leather, and it still has a little bit of a chocolatey feel. It's kind of gourmand. It's super delicious stuff that is definitely worth splurging on if you want a super sweet iris fragrance that still does have mass appeal and I don't know, just has kind of something addictive about it. Smells great in the cooler weather. Going with something on the fresher side, we have Prada L'Homme, just the original here. Of course, this also has iris, but in the complete opposite direction as the Valentino. Has neroli, musk, some light woods in here. And it is simply put just a super clean, soapy office scent, or work scent, or school scent, or what have you. It is your soapy, day-to-day workhorse. It's all you really need to know. And, you know, it's not cheap either. I mean, even at discounters, you know, you're still looking at around $80 sometimes. But when you think of the value that you get out of this one in terms of its quality and even its performance, and just the smell at the end of the day, the smell alone makes this one worth it because you really can't offend people with it. Now, there are going to be people, sure, that may not like it that much or may not care for it, but the probability of you finding someone that straight up hates this is significantly lower than most other fragrances out there on the market. And to me, that is almost priceless. Up next is a technically discontinued fragrance, but you guys know my rule, I'm sticking to it. I only feature ones that you can still purchase at a price that isn't outrageous. And you can still get this one basically everywhere. It's 1 Million Lucky by PACO Rabanne. Currently, best prices are going to be 86 for 100 ml, 111 for 200 ml. I'll link that down below. So it makes sense to go that extra large bottle size if you're going to be spending the money. But of course, it's going to be up to you. Not everyone actually technically needs that much. But given that it is discontinued, that might be the way to go, might be the smart move. But it's still available most everywhere. Those are kind of the best prices I've seen. Most retailers are still going to have it and all of that stuff. But has been confirmed by the brand, unfortunately, that they're kicking this one out. And it's easy, right? They're making room for all of the new flankers that they're going to be putting out. We've gotten Elixir and the Parfum in the past couple of years, and it's clear that they're not going to stop. We didn't think they would discontinue 1 Million Privé because it was so good and did so well, at least here in the community, but they did, right? They don't care. They just want to continue the process, and they can't discontinue the original, so they got to start somewhere to continue to make room. It's pretty safe to say that I'm sure at one point the Parfum and Elixir will be discontinued years down the road as well. Just the sad reality. This one does have plum, it has hazelnut, aldehydes, honey. It's a real interesting mixture of freshness and an oceanic smell, or not oceanic, rather more so an airy light smell, but then a bunch of sweetness, kind of a silky smooth sweetness going on here. It's, for what it is, quite unique. I do have to give them credit for it. And at one point this was kind of right next to 1 Million Privé for me in terms of my favorites out of the line. Now that Privé is gone, this is my favorite 1 Million, and this is going to be gone at some point. That's a shame. Check this one out. We're going to go with something a little bit more out of the ordinary in terms of what you've been seeing in this list. From Bottega Veneta, it's Pour Homme Extreme. So this one focuses heavily on woods and aromatics. Fir, balsam fir that is, pine needles, woods, some spices in here, dry spices, a whole bunch of stuff. This is the outdoorsman's fragrance to an absolute T. If you like the outdoors, if you want to smell as such, go for something like this. Basically, if you're not fully into the new trend, which has been going on for a few years now, several years, but the trend of, you know, men's fragrances going in a sweeter direction. If you don't like that, if you want something more traditionally masculine, go for this one here and you will not regret it one bit. I want this when I want to reset, you know, getting caught up in smelling these new releases all the time and kind of this new style of men's fragrance. If I just want to go back to something that is, I don't know, just a little bit more, again, I hate to say it, but traditional, this is kind of the direction that this takes you, and it's gorgeous. It's a little bit pricey as well, but it's so well done. And again, heavy focus on this outdoorsman smell. I love everything about this stuff. And the Extreme happens to have decent performance as well. I was on the fence about this one in the beginning, Givenchy Gentleman Eau de Parfum Boisee. I'm just not really sure why I was just a little bit hard on it to begin with, but over time, I've really started to like it a lot. Now this one has iris, it's got black pepper, it's got a good heavy dose of sandalwood, and that's kind of what makes this one what it is to me, is all of that creamy, silky, smooth sandalwood in the base, which really kind of gives it a modernized smell. Not that any of these smell dated, because they don't, and they do not, and they never have. But I don't know, this one just has that Gentleman Eau de Parfum backbone, the sweet iris, and a little bit of that spiciness. But instead of going too sweet, it's bringing in some freshness and then the sandalwood just to give it a more kind of cologne-y dew type of smell. Just kind of weird to describe it, but when you smell this one, you'll kind of see the nuances there. You know, they're kind of stripping it back even farther than the EDP, and you're still getting iris, but it's not quite to that level. And I think it's actually very valuable. Like, I sprayed this one up in the air. I think it smells really nice. I do like this a lot. And each time I do revisit, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I was a little bit hard on this one in the beginning, but I see why people gravitate towards this one, and I see why I do as well. Really is nice stuff. Next up, and I believe this is our second to last fragrance here, we have Bulgari Man Eau de Toilette. It has honey, violet leaf, and vetiver, a bunch of other notes going on in here as well, but that's kind of just what I get the most of. And it's the original Bulgari Man, right? We're so used to giving the attention to all these flankers, Man in Black, Terra Essence, Glacial Essence, Wood Neroli, Wood Essence, the list goes on, right? I'm sure they're going to continue to make them. And so this is one of the last ones that I got. I just didn't have the desire. I'm like, why do I need the EDT? I've got all these other ones. They're so good. And once I got this one in, I'm like, man, I've been missing out yet again. Like, I wish I would have gotten this one sooner. It's more classic, and I like that about it. I really do. You know, it does have that freshness, which you'll find that other flankers in the line that are on the fresher side will kind of draw back to this one, which is kind of a cool thing to see. But it also has, again, a little bit more of a mature smell to it, a little bit more of an older feel, not in a bad way, but just a little bit more classic going on. And I really like that about this one. If you can get this one for a good price, it's definitely worth dropping some money on. I thought I wasn't really going to care for it all that much, I have to say, but I really enjoy it. And last up for this video, one you really do have to splurge on, it's Bleu de Chanel. This is the Parfum. The whole brand is like this. They're not discounted, so you got to pay the retail price. And a lot of times I just say, hey, go to Chanel.com and spend the money there and buy it, because at least when you buy directly through their website and you're paying that full retail price, you get a fancy box. You get a nice unboxing experience, and when you're paying this type of money, that's nice. You can buy it everywhere else. I don't know for sure. I don't really know if retailers all give you that experience. I don't know. I've just only bought from them, really. And so, I don't know. But, you know, if you're going to pay the money, just go through them is kind of how I look at it. This one has lemon zest. It's got that incense and birchy smell. Just such a classic scent. And for me, the Parfum is my favorite. I love everything about it, but realistically, the EDT and the EDP are also fantastic. So just pick which one you like. Regardless, I think every single person who has any sort of interest in fragrances should have a Bleu de Chanel. Whether it be this one or any of the other versions, any of the other two, you should have one. That's how I look at it. I love this DNA. I wear it often, this one and the EDP, and I know I can't live without it. And if you've ever been on the fence, you're kind of just not really feeling like spending the money. I felt the same way, but when I did finally pick it up, I was happy that I did, and I think a lot of people would feel the same way. Alrighty guys, that's going to do it for me. 10 fragrances that are worth splurging on. These are really nice to pick up and just get a lot of use out of. At the end of the day, you will get your money's worth out of these if you do decide to go ahead and pick them up. I will link them down below, and hey, check out my community tab. If you want to save money, that's the place to be. I post deals all the time, and some of these, like the ROCHAS and the one Luminous Night, have shown up over on my community tab several times because those can be a little bit tough to get, especially for a good price. But I found them, I've located them, so that way you guys can pick them up as well. That's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.